The word abortion, nothing about abortion is in the Constitution. I have no idea how they even had come to the conclusion that abortion was supposed to be, Roe v. how they ruled Roe v. Wade. If it's not in the Constitution, there's nothing in the Constitution about abortion.
Yeah. And to me, I was just like, I was telling my friends who are Canadian, I was like, they overturned Roe versus Wade. And I was like, regardless of what you feel about abortion, this is a good thing because it was a shitty case. And they would like get emotional and they'd be like, oh my God, no, this is the worst. And I'm like, no, it's not. It was a bad precedent. Like, it should have never been in the first place. It should have never been. And it's been a wedge issue for 50 years, literally. And it still is. Welcome to the Earth-Shaking Conversations podcast. I'm the host, Clarina Paquette. Today we have a very special guest. Her name is Avie, and she is a pro-life Democrat, if you could believe it. Yeah. Welcome, Avie.
Thank you so much for having me.
How are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm very good. So I guess the first question I'm going to ask you is, how does one become a pro-life Democrat? Tell me your journey.
So when I first started finding the pro-life movement, I always thought, abortion was, obviously like not right. I could never really get on board with abortion, but for the most part, I was pro-choice. I was like, well, I can't have a say in what other people do, with their lives. Because I was also very left-leaning, and I thought that there was no place for me in the pro-life movement. And about a year ago, I found POW, the Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising, and it's a group of leftist people who lean left and progressives that are anti-abortion. And I was like, those are my people. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is perfect for me. And then I got on board with them, and I could also never, in the past, kind of backtracking a little bit, I could never get with how pro-lifers were not consistent in their views, how they could be, like anti-free healthcare, anti-affordable housing, everything like that, but also be anti-abortion. That made no sense to me. And I'm like, what if I could be pro-life if I could do both? And then, of course, POW came along, DFLA came along, Democrats for Life of America, and I was like, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And I got involved with them. I've been organizing with POW for about a year now. And I've been the state chapter president of Democrats for Life of America for almost, I think, about 6-7 months now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you.
So I guess we could start into the issue of, like you mentioned, that, a lot of Republicans are pro-life and are anti-healthcare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is very frustrating for me to see that they are just so, from somebody who is like 100%, it's called the consistent life ethic. We are pro-life from the womb to the tomb. We want you to be able to have a life free from violence from the moment of conception to the moment of natural death. And I don't understand Republicans not supporting free healthcare, not supporting affordable housing, not advocating for the underdog. When, the underdog is the unborn children, but it's also the people who are carrying them, their mothers. It's also the sick, the poor. And I was like, how can we be pro-life if we're just we're not at that point, it's not pro-life, it's just pro-birth. And I wanted to be pro-life. I wanted to be pro-life for the entire life. And that's how I got into being a pretty much hardcore socialist, hardcore free healthcare, hardcore affordable housing, actively work in gun legislation, making sure that, our children are protected in schools just as they are in the womb. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'll kind of put my perspective in there because I'm a libertarian, so I'm the opposite of a socialist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that Republicans, they mostly believe in the individual.
Mm-hmm.
But on the Republican side, they do help a lot when it comes to unborn children and mothers. And I think that their view is not having the government involved, but still being able to support mothers.
Absolutely.
And being able to support, you see them supporting pregnancy crisis centers and I follow Candace Owens. She advertises like buying ultrasounds for mothers to be able to really see if they want to keep their children and stuff like that. So I think that Republicans might not be socialists and might not be pro healthcare, like pro free healthcare, and I can tell you all about the free healthcare problems in Canada.
Yeah.
But I think that they're pro like community helping the mothers. So
Absolutely.
So I think that's a little bit of like why personally I'm libertarian. I'm actually like, I do like having free healthcare, don't get me wrong, in Canada, but it also comes with its challenges, it also comes with its problems. And I think that having the government too involved in our lives is not good. And I don't know, I advocate for like a community-based support. So like the community helps out and donates for the mothers who want it, well, for all the mothers. To be,
There are lots of really, really, really good things that Republicans, at least in America, have done for the unborn specifically. Like Ron DeSantis said that he wanted to make like baby products and like strollers, stuff like that, tax free. And I was like, yes, that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. The Candace Owens saying that ultrasounds, like they do a lot for the unborn. It's just not as consistent as, in my opinion, as I think that it should be. I love how we have so many people, they make up the majority of pro-lifers. They make up a lot of us. And I see a lot of them rallying behind us. And I think that that's great because, there's power in numbers and we need as many people to stand up for the unborn as possible. But it's also really important to be consistent. So when I don't see that consistency, it's just like, I don't understand it as much, even though I do really appreciate them standing for the unborn,
Yeah, and I think it's important to have a balance too. Right now I'm conservative, but I used to be like you. Used to be a little bit more progressive. Which was like I used to be like in the Socialist Party, like what would have been considered Bernie Sanders' party in Canada, and now I'm conservative because it's just getting too crazy out there. So I'm more on this side, but I think it's really important to have a balance and to have the left and the right kind of balancing each other out because you'll have authoritarianism on both sides. And, that's why you have a left and a right. And that's why you don't have like one side and not the other or whatever. But yeah, I wanted to get your perspective on kind of the leftist take, which is really strange, like for pro-choicers, where they just completely want to get rid of like pregnancy crisis centers. What's your take?
I think, the leftist view is like we are always advocating for the underdog, in my opinion. We're always advocating for the disenfranchised, the sick, the poor. I've never understood why that would not include the most marginalized and the most silenced in our society, the unborn. Why would that not include the only group of people in our country that their mass murder is completely legal? Why would it not include them? It's just, again, it's not consistent. I've never understood. Pregnancy crisis centers, if you're pro-choice, why would they not be pro-women choosing life? Why would they, destroy the other option, the other choice? I've never understood that. Again, it's like the lack of consistency. I've never understood that.
Yeah, like I remember seeing, I think it was Elizabeth Warren just like manically like screaming out in the middle of the street, like, we should get rid of them. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You say you're a socialist, but you want to get rid of like choice for women, especially women in minorities and in poor communities? Like, that's so disgusting.
Yeah. Pregnancy crisis centers give out like free ultrasounds, free pregnancy tests, free resources, adoption resources, everything that you could ask for, every reason that you say that you cannot, like financial reason that you say that you need an abortion, they will help you. And so why would they destroy that? Like, I've never, like, you're pro-choice, exactly. They're not pro-choice in reality. They're pro-abortion. They don't support women choosing life. They don't support women going to pregnancy crisis centers. They just support abortion. Bottom line, that's what they're saying without really saying it.
Why do you think that is?
Because honestly, I've never understood why. Because they say that they're pro-choice, but they're not. I mean, for years and years, since the 1900s, we have disguised abortion as a women's right. We've said that we need to be able to kill our children to be able to be equal to a man. And we have told women that we're never going to be equal to a man unless we have the right to kill our child, unless we have the right to a procedure, which sounds a little misogynistic to me. I mean, I think that we're already equal to men. We're already inherently valuable to men without the right to incite violence against the unborn. We've never needed to do that. Oh, my light just turned off. Hello? There we go. My ring light turns off like every hour. We're good now. Lost my train of thought. Basically, the unborn are the most marginalized in our society, and we've come up with this facade that we need to be able to kill children for, freedom, and we don't. And so us saying that we want to be anti-abortion, that we want to, give this group of people the right to live, they think that we're just taking away their rights, which is understandable. I mean, I'd be pretty mad if somebody were going to take away my rights too. I'd be pretty upset about that. But we're not taking away anybody's rights. We're just giving another group of people that didn't have rights before the right to life, which, I mean, is a pretty basic right. And, I mean, we're killing thousands of unborn women every day. It's not a women's right, and abortion hurts and traumatizes women. This has never been a tool for women. This has never been helpful for women. But when they hear us say that we are anti-abortion, they just automatically, the flip switches in their mind, you're anti-women's rights, when that's never been the case. We just want to give a group of people that their mass murder is legal the right to live,
Yeah, and honestly, I think you're totally right when you say that it's super misogynistic of them to say that you have to kill your unborn child to be able to have same rights as a man. We should value, women have honestly such an amazing power.
Yeah.
Being able to give life is amazing. And the fact that it's twisted into this horrible thing is so weird. And the people who, it's all emotion based, and that's what the pro-abortion side of it did really well, I think, is that they've really captured emotions of women, and not just women, men, some men, not all of them, but some groups of men, and they've really as soon as they hear Roe versus Wade being overturned, they're immediately, this is the end. U.S. is done.
Yeah, this is a war on women, and I'm just no, it's not. Calm down. Nobody's trying to attack your rights.
Yeah, and it's crazy. It's completely crazy.
Yeah, and we've programmed them to think again this is a women's right, and when it has never been a women's right. I mean, abortion is never going to fix the societal ills that lead to abortion. If anything, the violation of women's rights is abortion, because you're lying to women. You're telling them that, oh, you will never have, this will fix all of your problems. This will unrape you, whatever the issue is, whatever, you'll never have to take care of the child. You won't have financial responsibility for this child. It's just a clump of cells, directly lying to women, saying this is going to have no side effects. That's an insult to women, to say that, just directly lie to them about a procedure that we're just removing a clump of cells. You're not removing a clump of cells. You're dismembering a live human being. But I mean, okay, that's just, you're lying to women. That is not pro-woman at all. I mean, they aid constantly in sex trafficking. They even have a policy called don't ask, don't tell. So, if a grown man brings a 14-year-old girl in for an abortion, she shows obvious signs of sexual abuse, they don't report it. That's not pro-woman. That's just pro-abortion. They don't care about anything besides profit and money. And this is an industry that's told us repeatedly that they see us as cattle. That's not a pro-woman institution. I don't want to be a part of an institution that calls us cattle and says that, as long as we're making money off of it, it's fine. That's not pro-woman. That's not feminist. That's not a woman's right. A woman's right is the right to life, and we should be empowered to be able to have our children and carry out our dreams without needing to kill our children. I think that we're strong enough to have a child and carry out our dreams, but they constantly tell us, no, you won't be able to finish school, you won't be able to have a job, you won't be able to be successful or follow your dreams if you don't have an abortion, if you actually have this child, which is the biggest lie, because they're basically telling us that we are not strong enough to do so. When, if you see women today, yes, we are strong enough. Women are strong enough to have children and follow their dreams, but when they keep telling us that we're not, that's the mindset that we've just kind of ingrained into the pro-choice side, is that we're never going to be able to be free without abortion, when banning abortion does not violate any rights whatsoever.
Yeah, and I make videos sometimes, and I'll just simply say, we should maybe not fully ban it, but at least not lie to women.
Mm-hmm.
And people they lose their mind, and it's yeah, obviously, ideally, I want it banned too, but the first step would be to ban lying to women and
Absolutely.
tell them I personally think that the first step to stopping abortion would be to, number one, force ultrasounds on everyone. You have to see your ultrasound, because first of all, it's the health of a woman.
Yeah.
I saw this crazy headline one time that it was a woman who took I think abortion pills, and she actually gave birth to a dead 30-week baby or something like that. It was oh my God. And that could have been prevented by an ultrasound.
Yeah.
Right? And then, so it's not only for to be able to really make an informed consent, it's for your health. And the fact that Democrats are against that, not Democrats, sorry, the pro-abortion community is against that. I just see them together, so it's really hard for me to do
I completely understand that.
But yeah, so the first thing, and I said that in the TikTok, and people were losing their mind, and they're like, no, we should not do this. And I'm like, why? Because they're not going to have abortions?
Exactly.
That's why.
Exactly. See, all the time, I asked pro-choice, they're everywhere that I go, I love to create dialogue, talk to them. I'm do you think that we should be explaining how an abortion is performed to women, and should we be giving them ultrasounds beforehand? They're no. Women know what they're doing to their bodies. I'm not if you don't tell them what you're doing. Not if you don't tell them what they're doing to their bodies. If you wheel a woman into a operating room to say, we're going to give you a surgery, and you can't assume that she's going to make the right decision to say yes or no to the surgery if you don't tell her what the surgery is. If you don't tell her what it's going to do to her body, what it's going to do to her child, if you don't give her the option of informed consent, she doesn't know what she's doing with her body, because you're not giving her the option to know what she's doing with her body.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I can't believe people actually think that not giving informed consent and not telling them, okay, here's the psychological effects, here are the physical effects, because there are physical effects to abortion.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, no, we shouldn't do that. So then I'm okay, so are you pro-choice or are you pro-abortion?
Exactly.
In my opinion, the least you should be able to do, the least, is get an ultrasound and get that list of side effects listed out to you.
Absolutely.
And say, okay, this is what's going to happen. These are the side effects. Because in every single other healthcare field, that, they do that, right? Mm-hmm. If I go to get my wisdom teeth taken out, and they'll say, this is what's going to happen. We're putting you under the gas. You're going to feel woozy after, whatever. They list out the side effects. Are you still okay with it? Yes. Why isn't it the same for abortion?
The answer I hear most common is because these women are scared and vulnerable, and they might not choose abortion. I'm so then you're not again, like you said, you're not pro-choice, you're pro-abortion. You don't want women to have every resource that she needs to be able to choose. You just want her to have an abortion. That's really it. They don't care about giving women the resources that they need. Like, hey, here's the major list of health complications and psychological effects that this abortion will have on you. Just the thing that they do say is you'll feel weepy for about 3 days. No, it's that women who have abortions have a 10 times higher risk of suicide than people who have not had abortions, people who have carried out their pregnancy. And they don't tell you that because why would they? Because this is a capitalistic, they're feeding off of your profit, and they don't want to hinder anything that they could do to make you change your mind and make you not give them money, pretty much.
Yeah, and I think it goes deeper than that. I think it's more than just wanting more money. I don't know, I believe there's dark forces in that industry.
Absolutely.
And certain people, like Elizabeth Warren, like I don't want to be like totally conspiracy theorist here, but like just watching that video of her saying like we should shut down all the pregnancy crisis center, she looked like demonic.
Oh yeah. I'm agnostic 100%. I don't subscribe to a certain like religious belief. But then there are videos of like people talking about abortions, interactions that I've had with people who perform abortions, and I'm like, there's something a little bit more than, just abortion here. Like there's like demonic stuff going on. Like it's just completely insane and demonic and dark.
Oh yeah. Like the last year with the Roe versus Wade reversal, like I saw a couple things. Like first of all, there's a lot of women who actually are honest about their abortion, and I think that's great, honestly. And like I support them 100%. And then on the other hand, there's people straight up lying. Like, I don't know if you saw that, like, Guardian article with, like...
Oh, yeah. Oh, Lord.
Samples. I was like, I can't believe this is even a thing.
Don't even get me started on that Guardian article. That was so... I had so many people send this to me, like, as a aha moment. The article doesn't even say, like, from the original poster, it doesn't even say, this is a fetus at 9 weeks. It says this is pregnancy tissue. That could be the amniotic sac. That could be the placenta. That could literally be anything. That does not mean the fetus. What it actually was most likely a bleached amniotic sac. That was not a fetus. A fetus at 9 weeks is much larger. If you open an embryology textbook anywhere, any fetal development, anything, you will see that is not a fetus at 9 weeks. And even if it was, that's like throwing a human being in a meat grinder and pointing to them on the other side, like completely dismembered and being like, see, was never a human in the first place. That makes no sense. I mean, if you dismember the human to the point where they're unrecognizable, of course they're not going to look human. But that was the amniotic sac or the placenta. Pregnancy tissue does not necessarily mean, fetus.
Yeah, it's like if I'm a bee farmer, so it's like if I took a little piece of the sack and just been like, this is the pregnancy, this is what a calf looks like, and it's this big, and the calf is actually 80 pounds. Mm-hmm. Like, it makes zero sense. And I was laughing because all these, it was the men that was pushing that weirdly, the male feminists I call them, and I was like, you guys gotta be so dumb to actually post this on, social media.
I call them the bro-choicers because, there's nothing easier than being a pro-choice man. And I call the bro-choicers were, sent in my DMs being like, see, this is a fetus. You're wrong. And I'm just like, okay. So then I just respond with, a picture of an embryology textbook and a picture of a fetus at 9 weeks. And I'm just like, there you go. Open a 6th grade biology textbook. This is what this looks like. It's genuinely so funny to me to see that kind of stuff, the misinformation.
It's funny, but it's sad because, women actually believe it.
Yes.
And the whole clump of cells thing, your cells for about maybe 2 weeks, and then you become an embryo and you look like a human. Yeah,
exactly. It's so sad to see people just directly lying to women and being like, it's just a clump of cells, it's not a baby, it's not even a human being. And I'm just like, how can you lie to people like that? How can you lie to these women who you say, who are vulnerable and they're scared, and you're just telling them that it's a clump of cells when it's their baby. This is their child. This is part of them. And you're saying that they're not even human yet? Like, that's so dehumanizing to so many people that have had abortions and are hurt by it.
Not only that, but also people who've had miscarriages.
Yeah, like, it's suffered a miscarriage, and you just hear them say, you know, that's not a baby. It's like, that was their baby. This is their child. That is a human being. From the moment of conception, that is a whole human being. And saying that it's not is so dehumanizing and hurtful to people that have suffered miscarriages or suffered abortions.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into Roe versus Wade.
Oh
my God. I'm a paralegal, and I could not believe the misinformation from not just the left, but also the right. It was like everyone, like the right was celebrating like abortion is now banned, and I'm like, no, it's not. And then the left is like, oh my God, abortion is banned, it's the end of the world. And I'm like, it's not though. And you didn't read the case.
Exactly. When I had so many people being like, see, abortion is banned, this is what you wanted, and I'm just like, abortion is not banned. You are leaving this up to the states. You're actually making it a choice now. Like this, we are just giving the states the right to choose. Actually, you have more of a choice of what your state says about abortion, because now you can vote on it. If it can be completely banned or legal up to 9 months, you have the right to vote on that now. But, I mean, now it just goes back to the states. I mean, it's not completely banned. There are some states like Michigan that abortion is completely legal up to the moment of birth. And Roe had nothing to do with banning abortions.
Yeah, I mean, Roe versus Wade, like the actual case, and this is why I think no one actually read the case.
Mm-hmm.
The Supreme Court is there for upholding the Constitution.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks, or maybe 2 days before, there was another case about guns, right? And that was upheld. So, like, I think it was like concealed carry in New York or something, and it was a couple that was trying to get their license, and they weren't able to. In the Constitution, it literally says in the Second Amendment, it says, you have the right, or the government has no right to impede on having guns. It does not say the same thing for abortion.
Yes.
And that's why Roe versus Wade should have never even been a case in the first place. Because it wasn't in the Constitution, and the only role of the Supreme Court is not there to make laws, it's there to uphold the Constitution.
Yes.
So that's why you saw on one hand the case of the Second Amendment saying, yes, you're allowed to conceal and carry because your government shouldn't be telling you that you're not allowed guns. But on the other hand, Roe versus Wade was overturned. It was overturned because it's not in the Constitution, and it's not a constitutional right, and the only reason Supreme Court is there is to uphold the Constitution. And it was a huge mistake from the beginning. And even Ruth Bader Ginsburg said that.
Yeah. It was obviously, they said it was egregiously wrong from the start, that you cannot find the word abortion in the Constitution anywhere. The word abortion, nothing about abortion is in the Constitution. I have no idea how they even had come to the conclusion that abortion was supposed to be, how they ruled Roe v. Wade. If it's not in the Constitution, there's nothing in the Constitution about abortion.
Yeah. And to me, I was just like, I was telling my friends who are Canadian, I was like, they overturned Roe versus Wade. And I was like, regardless of what you feel about abortion, this is a good thing because it was a shitty case. Yeah. And they would get emotional and they'd be like, oh my God, no, this is the worst. And I'm like, no, it's not. It was a bad precedent. It should have never been in the first place. It should have never been. And it's been a wedge issue for 50 years, literally. And it still is.
Absolutely. It is. And how it was never in the Constitution in the first place. There was nothing about abortion. It makes no sense to be in the Constitution or in our whatever. It's not in any state constitution either. And now there are states that allow abortion up until the literal moment of birth, and that could leeway into live like live birth abortions. Roe was wrong from the start, obviously, and all it did was make sure that states could not ban abortion completely. That was it. I mean, no, I don't think, well, states have done that now, still with exceptions, obviously. But I mean, the lowest that we had gone with Roe with abortion was, I think, 6 weeks with the Texas heartbeat bill.
Yep.
Is that right? 6 weeks with the Texas heartbeat bill.
Yeah, and I think it was Mississippi who ended up bringing that case. It wasn't Texas that brought that case. I think it was Mississippi that brought the case to the Supreme Court.
Oh, mm-hmm.
And they were trying to get it overturned, and it actually did work because there's actually some constitutional judges now on the Supreme Court. Amazing.
Yeah. We have like with Dobbs v. Jackson, obviously they took that to the court. And when it was dropped, it was like such a relieving moment for all of us. Because first off, this thing that's in the Constitution, or not in the Constitution, this thing that was ruled saying the Constitution supports it, is finally overturned because this has nothing to do with the Constitution. This has protected the mass slaughter of the unborn for 50 years now. And there's no reason. I mean, Roe should have never been a thing in the first place. It was wrong from the start.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the reason why they actually, what I believe the reason why it had nothing to do with the Constitution when they ruled Roe versus Wade in the first place, it was just to like end that argument. They were just tired of hearing it, and they said, we'll just legalize it up to, I think, 15 weeks. And that's it. But that should have not happened. That's not legal.
Yeah. At that point, when abortion was such a big, I mean, of course, it was a huge argument. It still is. Ruling Roe did not stop like the abortion debate. If like a few years after Roe, it got even like the arguments got even worse. You have like Operation Rescue, and then you have pro-abortion people like now vandalizing crisis pregnancy centers. I mean, if anything, overturning Roe, I think was a very good thing, because obviously now we can ban abortion. We can. That's obviously going to take a lot of work, but at least it's possible now. The work is like just starting now that we don't have that stumbling block in the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you about the history of abortion.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty dark rabbit hole.
So, I mean, we could start with Miss Margaret Sanger. She founded Planned Parenthood, and she was a famous racist and eugenicist. She founded Planned Parenthood because she wanted to exterminate the black population. She spoke at KKK rallies. She was just a famous racist and a famous eugenicist. And that's, now it's, Planned Parenthood, this is a women's right. And it's like, you were founded on, killing minorities. Don't even. I can't stand that. But it was founded on, was not founded on a women's right. It was founded on trying to exterminate people that did not fit other people's rhetoric and did not fit other people's preferences. It was not at all founded on, the rights of women.
No, and actually the first wave feminists were against abortion.
Yeah. So the women's suffrage were very against abortion.
Yeah, and like Margaret Sanger, the thing is, Margaret Sanger wasn't for abortion for white people.
No, not at all.
No, that's why like all the Planned Parenthoods are strategically placed in minority communities. And like this is why when Roe versus Wade got overturned, you heard a lot of like Whoopi Goldberg, which is literally the devil incarnate in my opinion. Yeah. I hate that girl. Like she's literally so annoying. And she was like, well, this is gonna affect black and I'm like, how? You're gonna have more babies? Like it actually affected the black population the most because directly because of abortion, men now had the option to say, I don't want to have a part of their life. And now 25%, only 25% of, I think, Black babies have a father and a mother present.
More Black babies, and I think it's New York, are aborted than born. This is not, when you look at like a map of where all like abortion clinics are in America, they're all in like minority areas. And they're like, well, this is how they're helping us. I mean, we wouldn't need this if, we had access to abortion. I'm like, so why would they spend the billions and billions of dollars that they use to create these abortion clinics to fund the systematic problems that lead to abortions, that lead to needing abortions? They don't care about, minority rights. They are just trying to, it's literally population control.
It is.
They're just trying to, keep the minorities a minority. And that's how it is. I mean, why would they spend the billions of dollars on killing children instead of just, using that billions of dollars to fix the societal ills that we need fixed, the reasons why we need abortion, that people say that they need abortion? Why would they not use that money to fix those societal ills?
Yeah, that's a great point, honestly. And I don't know, like it was the whole abortion industry, like it's very interesting when you look at the history, because I like go into rabbit holes sometimes, and I did like the birth control one, and that one is scary. I don't know if you like happen. But they like force sterilize like Puerto Ricans.
Oh, Lord.
Using birth, and they were like testing it, and they were forcing I believe it was Puerto Ricans, or maybe it was Mexicans. I don't know, but they were like testing it out on young women going to university in Puerto Rico, and they actually sterilized a bunch of them because of their test. And birth control was actually not tested. Barely. Like, it was tested on, I think, 150 women before it became legal.
That's so just messed up. I mean, everything that has to do with, like, abortion, birth control, everything like that has a root in racism or population control, has a very dark root somehow, some way.
Yeah, it does. And abortion, obviously, Margaret Sanger was a huge eugenicist, a racist, and after the World War, and I remember reading this and I was like, oh my god, are you kidding? She literally said, well, we can't get rid of the Black population the way that the Nazis did because that's not socially acceptable, so we're going to actually do it from within, and we're going to brainwash these women into thinking that they need to kill their children. And the crazy part is that it actually worked.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part. It's her plan. Like, she'd be so happy to see what's going on today. Like, it worked.
Like, we have officially desensitized people, to the killing of children. And so now it's normalized, and that's exactly what she wanted. She wanted killing normalized. And that's how she was obviously going to exterminate the Black population. As she said at a KKK rally, we want to exterminate the Black population. She got what she wanted. She got the desensitization. She got the more Black babies are aborted than born. This is what she wanted. This is what the eugenicists want, the founders of the eugenicist movement, the founder of the abortion eugenicist movement. This is what they wanted. And we fed into it, and we gave it to them, and we've desensitized people to abortion now.
It's crazy. And then in Canada, we have something called medical assisted in dying, MAID. Yeah. And they're actually trying to legalize murdering your children up to 1-year-olds if you have disability. I'm not even joking.
That's insane. Like forcing assisted suicide on them?
Well, it wouldn't be forcing, it'd be the parent's choice, but it's still pretty gross.
Oh, Lord. Wow, that's completely just messed up. I can't.
Yeah, and guess what would happen if a child with disability would go in foster care?
Just medical assisted suicide. medical assisted in dying.
Yeah, I call it government execution.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because that's, but yeah, this is where we've like gotten, it's not even, and this is honestly one of the reasons why Roe versus Wade got overturned. Pro-choicers don't seem to see that, but I'm like, it's because you're so crazy, and it's like, legalize it up to what, 18 years old?
Yeah. Like, there is no consistent distinction between, like, you know, a baby 5 minutes before birth and then a baby 5 minutes after birth, but yet you want to kill one and not the other. You know, there is no consistent distinction. Why, if I can kill a baby at 7 months old, why can't I kill a 3-year-old? There is no consistent distinction. One, they're all humans. They're all humans and they're all worthy of life. So why can we kill one and not the other? You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so how do we solve these issues, in your opinion?
Like, which ones in particular?
How would we solve kind of the resensitization of... I
think that, you know, things like rescue, which is like the act of going and putting your body between the oppressed and the oppressor. So, like, have you ever heard of, like, Operation Rescue, like, in the 1980s? Randall Terry founded Operation Rescue, or he helped found Operation Rescue, and they would block off clinics. They would go inside of clinics and, you know, hand resources out to women, talk to them, create dialogue with them. And then some would leave, some would get arrested. It was all, I think rescue is very important to show people that we're not just, you know, silent protesters. We're not just going to just be like, abortion is wrong. We're going to do something about it. I think victim imagery is very important, in moderation, like, and depends, like, certain, like, right time and place for victim imagery to show, like, this is what abortion genuinely does. You know, testimonies from women who've had abortions, people who've survived abortions, babies who've survived abortions is very important to show them that, like, this is murder. And these are human beings who have survived the thing that you're advocating for, and here they are, alive, standing for life, a full human being, somebody that you said wasn't a human being, now is a human being. And they're standing and they're saying that this is wrong. That's mainly, I mean, with resensitization.
Yeah, I think I would have a little bit of a different approach.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mentioned earlier, I think, first of all, like, I would force, like, ultrasounds, not just to resensitize them, but also to like, for the health. Like, it's crazy that you don't do that. But the second thing I think I would do is I would, again, force them to know exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of women go into this thinking, oh, it's a clump of cells. Oh, whatever, it's no big deal. You know, the Democrats said it's no big deal, and it must not be. And they're being lied to, and that's a travesty. There's, like, 1 in 3 women have had an abortion, and 1 in 3 women suffer immense amount of trauma, and you can see it.
Yeah.
When you talk to these women, you can see it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would, you know, really, like, I think I would do, like, kind of what Candace Owens is doing, in the way that you give them the option. I think 60% of women choose life after seeing their ultrasound. And then the rest, I would just tell them exactly, like, what it is in great details, and, you know, exactly like a medical procedure should be. And then, of course, I hate Planned Parenthood. It needs to go.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of the, like, most evil corporations ever. And yeah, it's just, like, it's got to go. And also, I think I would just increase pregnancy crisis centers and support for women, kind of encourage people to actually support women. Because for me, I think it's more, this is something that's going to be more community based. I don't think the government is ever or should be involved in it. Like, I'm very much against the government. Like, if I could, I would, like, pay no taxes, and I just, like, hire my own people to like do whatever. But yeah, like I think this is gonna end up being a community-based thing, and like we see, like kind of the results of abortions too. The fact that MAID is even talked about in Canada, this is a big issue. I'm not sure if it's a big issue in the States, but in Canada, MAID is legal, and it started out with terminal illness, and now it's terminal illness if you have a mental health disorder. They're trying to legalize it for like 12-year-olds and up to like do it without their parents' consent. And it's like this whole thing is about normalizing death.
Yeah,
in my opinion,
it absolutely is. I think exposing the abortion industry for what they were founded on what they do, is a main part, because a lot of people, they don't know. They genuinely think that this is a healthcare industry that wants to help women. It's not it at all. I think exposing the abortion industry for what it truly is a big part of resensitizing our communities. And ultrasounds, showing them what an abortion is. And there are even times that I'm at like a pro-life event and there will be victim imagery, and I will see people flipping it off, yelling curse words, saying that they're glad that we can kill children. And it's just like, that's very interesting. I think women who are pregnant and going into abortions are much more sensitive to that type of thing. That's why I think we should be very careful with like victim imagery. But like explaining to them how, all these different types of procedures are done. These are the psychological risks. These are the type of cancer that you're more likely to get, stuff like that. And now, like in Michigan and Vermont, there are no health and safety regulations for abortion whatsoever. Like, they do not have to clean their equipment, stuff like that. There is absolutely no standard of health, safety, hygiene, anything for them. Exposing them for what they truly are is going to be one of the biggest parts of ending abortion and resensitizing our communities mainly.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that the Republicans had a major missed opportunity in the midterms. They were trying to run away from the abortion issue, and we all saw like the midterm results. They were terrible for Republicans. They were great for Democrats, which I'm not even sure how that was possible. But I personally think, and if I were to talk to like the Republican leaders, I would say you need to double down. I know this sounds crazy, but I think that if the Republicans showed what abortion is actually, what Planned Parenthood specifically does, I think that they would go a long way into flipping votes in that way. Because the Democrats, they had nothing, right? They had really terrible stats, but they had the abortion issue, and they monopolized it, and they ran with it. And even I was like, there's no way in this, like, these high gas prices and this inflation that they're actually going to succeed. And I was majorly wrong. And I think that Republicans need to seize the moment, and they need to, first of all, I would like put across the board like a policy, maybe not fully ban it, but ban it after a certain amount of weeks for sure. And then I would be running ads every single day on every single TV showing what Planned Parenthood is doing. Like, that's what I would be doing. I would literally be like doing the opposite of what the Democrats do. And I'd be like running ads all the time about what Planned Parenthood is, who Margaret Sanger is, how it got started, the racism behind it. And that would be a great way to resensitize people, and a lot of people would be like, holy shit, I didn't know this, right?
Yeah, like the abortion issue is, I always see like Republicans, kind of not really wanting to talk about it as much, and I'm just like, this is something that you cannot compromise on. This is something that you need to stand very firm on. Human life and the right to life is being violated for an entire group of human beings. And you need to stand up. I mean, you are legislators. You need to stand up and tell them, show them that this is wrong. If you are truly anti-abortion, as you say you are, if you are pro-life, as you say you are, then it's time to act like it. It's time to stop being silent on the issue of abortion and silent in the face of mass slaughter.
Mm-hmm. And it really did cost them last election, in my opinion. Trump had said something like, oh, the abortion issue was the reason. And I'm like, yeah, it was, but you could have doubled down.
Sorry, my dog started very aggressively barking. What did you say?
I said, like, they could have, like, Trump said that the abortion issue was the reason they lost the midterms. And I was like, yes, that's true. But you guys should have doubled down. You should have been running ads about Planned Parenthood, about Margaret Sanger. You should have been exposing them for who they are. And right now, it seems like, honestly, the only people who are doing that are the pro-life people.
Yeah, I mean, as legislators, you have such, they have such a loud voice. They are the people making our laws, deciding our laws and how our society will go. They are the ones that should be telling people how wrong abortion is and exposing this industry for what it actually is. I mean, you just hear them saying, abortion, I'm pro-life. And I'm like, why? Tell us why. Why are you pro-life? There are so many reasons you could be pro-life. Expose the abortion industry. Expose abortion for what it truly is. You are the people with the amplified voices. So tell people what this is and expose them for who they truly are.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, well, I think that this is something else the pro-life community does well. There's a lot of resources for women who've had abortions, who want to solve their trauma, and I think that's great. That's very much needed because, unfortunately, on the pro-choice side, there isn't nothing.
Mm-hmm. We have great organizations like Let Them Live. Red Rose Rescue helps women. There are so many places and so many organizations that truly help women. And it's silenced by the pro-abortion side. I get DMs on my stories talking about resources for women being like, shut the F up. And I'm like, you said you support choice. I'm just offering another choice. So, I mean, I'm not trying to take away your profit as that's what's most important to you. I'm just giving them another choice. Like you say that you are pro-choice. So let me offer them the other choice. There are so many good organizations out there for pregnant people and for pregnant women. There are at the point that you can have little to no birth expenses. They'll pay your hospital bills. You will have somebody by your side the entire time during the birth of your child and raising your child. But it's so silenced by the pro-abortion side because they don't want to acknowledge the fact that the only choice is an abortion.
Yeah, and that's what's crazy to me again. Whenever I see pro-abortion, I don't even call them pro-choice, I call them pro-abortion, because if they were pro-choice, they'd be pro what we are. Even if you're not against, or even if you're against criminalizing abortion, at the very least, if you say you're pro-choice, you should be able to not lie to women. The fact that they have to dehumanize the life and reduce it to a clump of cells, a fetus, which a fetus is really an unborn child. That's what a fetus is. Or an embryo. It's all dehumanizing terms to lie to women at the end of the day and tell them it's nothing. It's like a tumor, right? It's not a tumor. It's a baby. It's your DNA, and it's not going to undo your trauma, unfortunately. It's only going to add to it. And this is what I tell people. I'm like, you don't want to add to your trauma. You want to solve the trauma you already have. And abortion is not a great way. You will only add to your trauma, and you're not only going to add, you're going to have to live with this for the rest of your life. This is a serious
abortion
decision.
abortion does not undo the trauma of rape. I mean, I was sexually assaulted. Was manipulated by the abortion industry into having an abortion. I did not end up needing to have an abortion. I was considering it, and I was told to stay silent about my abuse for 4 years while I was in contact with these people who either work for the abortion industry, were abortion supporters, whatever. They were saying, just don't say anything, we can't help you, we're not going to report it, but stay silent until you get raped and then we can give you an abortion. And abortion did not help anybody that I've talked to that's had abortions because they were raped. Abortion does not undo the trauma of rape. Everything reminds me of my rape. I mean, it could be a smell of something, the color of a car, somebody's hair color. Abortion does not undo all of that. Nothing can undo all of that. That's something you're going to have to live with for the rest of your life. And saying that abortion is just going to, fix everything is ignorant. It's ignorant. It's not trauma informed. It's deceitful. You're deceiving women by telling them that this is going to fix all of their issues. This is going to be a cure-all for them, because it won't. It's just going to create more trauma, more issues, more health complications than you would have had if you hadn't had the abortion, or if you would have carried the pregnancy to term. No matter what, women who have abortions have a 10 times increased risk of suicide. And so obviously that impacts your mental health, especially just after you've been raped. And women who've been raped and are considering abortions deserve better than abortion. They deserve resources. They deserve care. They deserve empathy and radical compassion, not just, here's a quick fix because we don't want to deal with your issues. Go get it taken care of. Bottom line, is pretty much what they're saying.
Well, I'm really sorry to hear about that. That's really traumatic, and I'm sorry you had to go through that. Can you talk about what the abortion industry does to victims of rape and victims of human trafficking?
Yeah. So when you go in for an abortion, obviously, they hide human trafficking very well. I mean, I think it's 53% of human trafficking cases are forced abortions, but yet none of those get reported. There was a case study, or there was a study done by Liberty EDU about human trafficking and abortion, how prevalent it is. And it's such a concerning issue. I mean, they have the don't ask, don't tell policy, and they just don't speak up about abortion. There were multiple cases where 13, 14, 15-year-old girls, and this was recorded, Live Action did a recorded study or whatever, they did a recorded interview type thing, undercover, talking about going in as a 15-year-old girl getting an abortion. She's like, I'm in a relationship with a 30-year-old man and I need this abortion because I'm pregnant. My parents can't know. And a lot of the time they would lie to her and tell her how to get a judicial bypass to illegally obtain abortions, how to lie to her parents. They didn't report her, because she was most likely being groomed. They didn't report her to they didn't report the information to CPS. They just were oh yeah, here's an abortion. That's fine. There have been times where Live Action has recorded a pimp, as somebody going in as a pimp, bringing in girls from human trafficking, and they have told the girls they've told the trafficker how to get the girls back to work quicker, how to hide this. And they've admitted and they've agreed to aiding sex traffic rings. They don't at all help victims of rape and abortion. They hide what they're doing. I mean, they destroy evidence. They give these girls abortions and then return them back to their abusive situation so that they can be abused again and go back for another abortion and create more profit and create more trauma, essentially. They've hidden sex trafficking for years and years. Women who've had abortions because they were raped, so many women that I've talked to have been this traumatized me more. This was not at all helpful. I know a girl who had abortions repeatedly when she was 8 years old because she was sexually trafficked. She was human trafficked. And she's people that should have told me this was wrong was Planned Parenthood. They should have told me that it's not normal that I'm going in for abortions all the time. that I'm 8 years old and having to have abortions. This isn't normal. But they don't report that because it's not normal. It's not normal for a 9-year-old girl to go in, or 8-year-old girl to go in for an abortion as a grown man is bringing her in. She's obviously distressed. That's not normal. But they don't report that. And they say that they don't report it because there's nothing they can do about it, even if they did report it. So they might as well just give the girl an abortion. Which isn't true. I mean, you can do a lot by reporting abuse. You can get that guy put in jail. You can get the ring shut down. There's so much you can do by reporting abuse. They're just lazy, and they just don't want to. It creates them more profit if these girls have to keep going back for abortions. It creates more trauma, and that's all that they're doing for sexual assault survivors, is just creating more trauma. Abortion has never helped rape survivors, human trafficking survivors.
It's just so, like, disgraceful. Like, I have no words, honestly, for this, because it just shows how anti-women and like, pro-abortion they are. Like, they're anti-choice. The fact that they're not even helping victims of human trafficking and victims of rape and of grooming, it's so gross. And that's the least they can do, really. And yeah,
just like report it.
It's the least they can do. And like, we have an ongoing issue of human trafficking in North America. There is a lot of it that's going on, and it's a big issue that no one really talks about. And they're like aiding and abetting in that. And it's really disgraceful.
Yeah, it is just so heartbreaking to see how many women are just sex trafficked and abused by the abortion industry, but being silenced by the pro-choice side because they're like, this is a choice, this is a woman's right, and they're like, it wasn't my choice and it wasn't my right. You know, it's so just insulting to people who have been raped and abused or sex trafficked and abused and forced into abortions or have had abortions to say that this is a right. This is what you need. This is for victims of rape. This is what you need. That's not what you need. You need love and support and compassion, not abortion. That's not the cure-all.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Let me finish this podcast with asking you, how does the left respond, specifically the pro-choice left, respond to you being a pro-life Democrat?
It is, I get mixed responses. Some people are like, wow, I'm so glad to see a pro-choice Democrat, or pro-life Democrat. And then some people are like, death threats in my DMs. They're like, you can't be a Democrat if you're pro-life. And I'm like, actually, I can, because I agree with the Democratic Party on so many things, just not abortion. And so, one issue, most Democrats have at least like one thing that they disagree with the party. But, me, it's abortion. So, of course, that's the kicker for them. I get some positive responses, and I get some people just completely invalidating that I'm a Democrat, saying that I'm just like a Republican in disguise, that I'm just trying to go undercover as a Democrat to like get through to the Republicans. And I'm like, no, anybody at Thanksgiving dinner can tell you that I'm a Democrat. So
yeah, well, I think honestly you're a wonderful human being, and thank you for everything that you do, honestly. And thank you for coming on this podcast. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Karina. Thank you for having me.